respectful of your time tonight, as well as the respectful time of our candidates. Let's open with a prayer, please. So if you bow your heads. Lord, the people that we're going to hear from tonight are giving up parts of their lives to take a step into a role of service. Help them to have the courage to correct the mistakes they might find, to improve any good work that has already begun, and constantly learn and discern the good from the bad. We understand, Lord, that when you win in one of these arenas, our opponents don't give up and go home. They rename and rebrand and return. Bless these candidates who we are about to hear from. Bless them for stepping forward. Bless everyone for taking an active role here tonight. Please bless Christine and her crew for putting all this together. And lastly, we pray that everyone here is treated with courtesy and respect. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, let's please say the Pledge of Allegiance as well. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My name is Dr. Tracy Miller, and I am with the Williamson County Republican Party. And really quick, I wanted to say that for many years, the people who have disliked this country or who'd like to see it remade couldn't win at the ballot box. And thus they began playing the long game. By working people into the judiciary to legislate from the bench, they began to undermine and defund our law enforcement, choosing instead to finance woke administrators and activist DAs. And finally, they began to reach around the people who knew too much, around the people who were too advanced and too set in their ways, people who recognized the false bill of goods that they were selling. And they began to target the young and the impressionable. It is in the textbooks, it is in the reading lists, it's in the curriculum. And speaking as someone who has worked for years in academia, it is no accident. In the days ahead, you're going to get to vote for one of our candidates, the one from your specific district. So please listen respectfully to all they have to say and reserve your enthusiasm until the end so we don't miss any vital information. Okay, now let me introduce our school board candidates. From District 1, we have Tony Bostic. From District 3, we have Dennis Driggers. From District 5, Margie Johnson. From District 7, Angela Beaton. From District 9, Darlene Jordan and Claire Reeves. And from District 11, Tanya Hidma. Now, lastly, I have the honor to introduce David Fowler. He's a husband, father, choir director, a man of letters, with a degree from the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, a JD from the University of Cincinnati College of Law. He has stepped forward and served in our state Senate for 12 years. He started the Family Action Council of Tennessee, and to this day alerts Tennesseans of any legislation that will either positively or negatively affect families in this state. And all of this is well and good, but something you may not know is he's the author of The Politics of Loving God. This was the book that helped convince Cindy, my wife, and myself that God does call people to contend in the political sphere. So in many ways, I want to thank him for all he does. David.
It's great to be here, and if I had known my book would cause that, I would have never written it. Just real quickly, let me say to the candidates, having served in public office in the state Senate, I appreciate that you're running. I know it's not easy. I used to say, once you get sworn in, you get sworn at. And so I wish you the best. I do ask that we respect each other tonight. Keep your comments directed to your thoughts, if you would. I would also say that we're going to be timed strictly by the clock back here. Your time to answer is short from the assumption that you know what you're doing and why, so you should be able to answer briefly. I will allow, if you're in the middle of a sentence when the timer goes off, for you to finish, as long as It's not a compound complex sentence. It's two dependent clauses and more than two independent clauses. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, perhaps you should read. Yes. Okay, so seriously, finish your sentence, but don't start it up. I think it's great that it was suggested that you refrain so that we can keep moving, because every time you disrupt, even enthusiastically, it slows down and cuts into the time, and we're going to try to be on time. I will every once in a while try to inject a bit of humor. Now, it's my style of humor, so you may not appreciate it. There are a few people here in the audience who do know me, and when they laugh, just follow along. Because we do want this to not be just a painful blackboard scratching. So, here's how we will go. We're going to ask some questions that you'll have, and I'll tell you how long you have to go. We would like to give each candidate 2 minutes to briefly summarize their background, why they're running for the school board. Now, because I know you're all good people of goodwill, I think Dr. Margie Johnson? Yes. She has to leave to handle a matter with her family. So we're going to let you take the first 2 minutes so that you can slip out. And when she does, know that it's for that reason, family matter she needs to attend to, and not because she got disgusted by her own answer or response. So with that, somebody in the back, cue the clock, and off we go.
Hello, I'm Dr. Margie Johnson. First off, I just want to say thank you for coming out and being informed voters. It's so good to run an election where people are getting informed and really knowing that local elections matter. I was the first to pull my petition in 2020. I lost by less than 300 votes. I only spent about $1,400 on my campaign, and it's kind of nice about your book because talk about being called. I would never have pulled a petition to run for a political office, except that I'm really being led by the Lord to do this. I said I had some Jonah moments. I even tried to turn around and be like, no, Lord, I don't want to do this, but he kept steering me in the right direction. So I'm excited to be able to run this time as a Republican. I'm running as a Republican because my beliefs in limited role of government and fiscal conservatism. Just a little bit about my background. I have 27 years of experience in education. I've been a middle school teacher. I've worked at the school level. I've worked at the district level. I also did some educational consulting where I provided technical assistance to 5 state departments in the Appalachia region. So education is my passion. So that's one of the big reasons why I'm running. Another passion of mine is children. I have 3 amazing sons from adoption, and that's why I have to leave here in a little bit. My youngest son is getting to play in the Tennessee Middle School Athletic Association sectionals, and so this might be the last game, and so I don't want to miss it. I will say that I brought some materials since I'm not going to really be able to participate. I have some door hangers that talk about my commitment to fiscal accountability, transparency, and increased community engagement. Also have a business card, and I brought a few copies of my book if you would like to grab it. So thank you for being gracious, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. We're glad you're here, and since you're not going to be here, I'll be happy to answer the rest of the questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Now we're going to read from left to right. That's the way we normally do it. So then we're going to read Hebrew from right to left, and then we're going to go with the Vegas method of random choice. So, for the evolutionary method. So, Mr. Boston, go ahead. Your same question. Summarize your background while you're running. 2 minutes.
Yes, well, good to see you all tonight. Yes, so I'm originally from Ohio. My mother was a teacher. She just recently retired last year after serving for a long time. So I know kind of the ins and outs of the struggles and the joys that good teachers face, and it seems like it's becoming even increasingly so with different issues that are popping up nowadays. I, much like Margie, kind of have felt called to run for the school board for a long time now, even when I was back in Ohio, but I knew it wasn't the time then. And when we moved here in 2012, and we bought our first house in Fairview in 2014, and we've been there ever since, it's become increasingly so that people have brought it up and asked me, and I'm like, all right, God, I think now's the time. So I'm stepping into that. I think sometimes it can be a mistake and for people just to assume that, well, it's Williamson County, we have the best schools in the state, so there aren't any issues. I don't think that could be further from the truth at times. We have a lot to be proud of, but I'd like us to see that we go from good to great, and I think there's ways we can do that. I also want to make sure that our conservative values here with our community are upheld in our schools. It's important. We see things happening all around the country, and Williamson County is not immune to those things. And so I think we have to make sure that we're watching for those and we put the right sort of parameters in place. It takes courage to do that, and I'm willing to do that for sure. I have a 4-year-old son. He's an August birthday, so he's not going into school next year. It'll be one more year after that. But I want to make sure that Williamson County is just a no-brainer of a place for me to choose to send him to school, and that I don't want to have to think, well, is there a different choice I could make? That's a sad thing to me, and I know there's a lot of parents that are in that same sort of boat as I am, and I want to do everything I can to make sure that that is as big a no-brainer for them as hopefully it will be for me as well. So, thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bostic. Let me also just mention, if you have a phone, unless you're expecting a call from the President or Donald Trump, would you put it on silent so it doesn't break their thoughts or their continuity? I'm not expecting one, but I thought I'd mention it to you. Okay, let's go to the next person, if we may. Dr. Diggers.
Hi, if you can hear me in the back, would you raise your hand? Thank you. Dennis Driggers, live in Spring Hill. Running for District 3, there's a vacancy. 5 of the 6 seats that are up are incumbents who have chosen not to run again. So there's an opening. A couple people in Franklin and a couple in Spring Hill asked me if I'd be interested in coming out of retirement. Said maybe, looked at it and decided I would. My grandkids are here. I had 25 years in the Army and then 25 years at the university. So when it came time for my last move, it was to here. I checked you guys out. Well, I'm a strategic analyst, so I looked at things. And Williamson County came out number 1. So my 3-point plan is 1, safety. Given my military background, you can't say, oops, I'm sorry, we should have done that. With Covenant now and Uvalde and some other stuff that's in the news, safety has to be first. And once everybody is safe, then we can talk about education. Education, you guys have excellence. You work for it, you pay for it, you have it. There are some disaffected individuals, but it's easier to keep it than it is to try to rebuild it once it gets knocked down. And lastly, my background in history and things, I don't tolerate for a second critical race theory, cancel culture, woke, all that other stuff. I find it personally offensive. And so I just don't tolerate it. And I would keep it out of the classrooms as best I could from the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we next go to Ms. Johnson. Beaton. Yes. Did I get it right? I can't see from over here. Yes, thank you.
Is my voice on?
You'll need to speak up in the mic.
No,
There we go.
I'm just getting my voice back. Sorry about that, everybody. My name is Angela Beaton, and I'm a.
Can't hear you. Yeah.
I'm trying, seriously, it's right here. My name is Angela Beaton, and I am running for school board District 7, obviously. I'm a 7th generation Tennessean who grew up in Hendersonville, went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Cavalls, and got a Bachelor of Communications from there. Returned to the Nashville area and worked in corporate communications for several different industries, ending with Nashville Electric Service. During that time, I met and married my husband, Stuart, And in 1999, we moved from Nashville to Brentwood specifically for the schools, because everyone says they're number one. We have 4 children who have gone through the school system at Williamson Public Schools, starting at Scales, and I still have 2 that are still in Brentwood High School. I've been a volunteer all my life, and I've been a Girl Scouts of Middle Tennessee volunteer since 1997, with the last volunteer job was as service unit manager for most of Brentwood, covering Edmondson, Lipscomb, Scales, Brentwood Middle, Brentwood High School, and Curry Ingram Academy. I've also am the chaplain of my DAR chapter currently, and we are the Constitution Week chair. Oh my gosh, I volunteered at Scales, I volunteered in the classrooms, and I also was an after-school program instructor there. Sorry guys, I'm going.
There we go. Thank you. A great place to stop. So, Mr. Jordan, if you would, you have 2 minutes. You're now on the NFL clock. As soon as you switch your, there.
Hi, I'm Darlene Jordan. Can you hear me in the back? Are we loud and clear? All right, test, test. I want to say thank you so much, Christine, for having us tonight with your crew and doing such a lovely job taking care of us so we can inform the voters here in Williamson County, especially District Number 9. That's what I'm running for school board position. I am briefly giving you a background. I'm from Clarksville, Tennessee, not that far down the road. I graduated from Clarksville High School with honors. I graduated, then went on to Lipscomb University and graduated there with a BS degree, then secondary, math, and elementary education. What sets me apart here from the other candidates at the school board is my 23 years of Williamson County Schools experience at the elementary level. That was at Grassland Elementary and Longview Elementary. At the middle school level, Brentwood High School. And at the high school level at Brentwood, I said Brentwood Middle School, did I? And then at Brentwood High School for my high school experience of teaching. So with that in mind, those 3 different levels of teaching experience, and in fact, after I retired in 2018, I also began my substitute teaching because I had a love of teaching that didn't stop. So I decided to go ahead and substitute teach at close by were the schools at Perry Creek and Grassland Elementary and Hunters Bend over the last 5 years. I have 3 concerns that I wanted to mention. One, that our children have fundamental skills in basic math and reading. Secondly, about the negative outside cultural influences that need to be not infiltrating our classroom environment. And 3, about how we can spend our taxpayer money. We need to do that wisely.
Thank you very much. And now, Ms. Reed, your turn, 2 minutes.
Thank you. So my name is Claire Reeves. I think everybody can hear me now. I'm running for the seat in District 9. And when my husband and I moved to Williamson County, we moved here primarily for the family-friendly environment and the great schools. We've lived here now coming on 5 years. And we wanted to establish deep roots here. And one of the best ways to do that is by giving back to the community. So I chose to get involved, very involved, in our local public elementary school. Our daughter started at Perry Creek in 3rd grade. I got on the PTO. I served for 3 years as vice president, president, and ex officio. And through that experience, I really honed my leadership skills. In fact, the district awarded me a 2023 Shining Apple Award for my service to the schools. Outside of my parent involvement, I am very passionate about education. I have 5 degrees, including a PhD in cell and molecular biology. So my scientific training makes me an expert in data analysis and problem solving and asking tough but the right questions and being an effective communicator. And those are the skill sets that I think people want to see in their school board members. And that's why I decided to run. People want to see parents like myself who who have been involved in the schools and who have children in the schools stepping up to serve their community. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Hibben, your turn. Mic on, 2 minutes.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Tanya Hibma, and I'm running for school board in District 11. And I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight to show your support for me and the other school board candidates. I'm running this race because I have a heart for service to this community, and I believe that my core values align with the conservative families in Williamson County. I'm running for school board because I'm confident that the 18 years that I've dedicated to teaching has opened my eyes to the strengths and weaknesses in our traditional educational system. I'm confident that my insight and my expertise, along with the collaboration of the other school board members, can create an environment that I believe this community wants to see. It's an environment that promotes a curriculum that teaches critical thinking skills, life skills that produce responsible adults, patriotism and an appreciation for our founding fathers, as well as service to our community and our country that benefits generations to come. I am very thankful that my 3 children graduated from Williamson County Schools and received an excellent education. And it's my mission to promote and ensure that same quality education continues for my grandchildren and for all of your children. Throughout my life, I've volunteered in a variety of different ways. I've served as a Cub Scout leader for my son's troop, and I've also served on 3 different boards over the years in various leadership capacities. Since 2017, I've been a charter representative for American Heritage Girls, and these experiences, along with others, have honed my skills to work collaboratively with others, my colleagues, in order to resolve different issues and
Thank you very
promote
much.
change. Thank you.
Now, we have another question coming. 1 minute. I said we would do the Hebrew version, which means you would start again. And if you're up for that mentally, to start again,
Yes.
otherwise I'll go to Ms. Reed and then come back to you.
No, that's
Okay,
fine.
here we go. That's good. So, what do you believe is the most important role of a Williamson County School Board member? The most important.
Well, I believe the most important role of the school board is to represent the interests of our constituents and to advocate for the best educational experience for all Williamson County students.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Reese, your turn. 1 minute. I'll repeat the question. What do you believe is the most important role of a Williamson County School Board member?
I think the most important role of a school board member is to create an educational environment for all students, including those with 504 plans and IEPs, that equips them with the tools necessary and the skills to navigate their academic journey, and so that they're adequately prepared to go out into the world.
Thank you. Nobody should feel embarrassed by not taking a full minute. Only lawyers like me would be embarrassed. That's okay. That's why we write briefs. Okay, Mrs. Jordan.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
That's not on.
They were good.
There we go. Go ahead.
Thanks. The most important role that I think that a school board member would have is making common sense policies, and that making sure that that serves the constituents, the community, using a servant's heart and a listening ear for those constituents of Williamson County. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Okay, now we come to you. Ms. Beaton, 1 minute.
I believe the most important role is to be a liaison between Williamson County Schools and our public. Also believe it's our role to monitor the progress of our schools, to monitor the finances of our schools, and come up with a budget.
Thank you. Dr. Driggers, same question.
Okay, I'll start, take a little different tact. I look at the Tennessee statute. I didn't mention that early, but I always look at the law first, and then things flow from that. So between policy, finance, and oversight, I think oversight's the most important. You've got to keep an eye on everything all the time. Just look at what's going on in the legislature this week with education.
Please
Thank
don't.
you.
Okay. I'm sorry, I shouldn't inject myself. Mr. Bosnick, your turn.
Yeah, well, as a board member, we kind of have two real specific functions, which is creating and evaluating policy, and then of course, we have control over our one employee, which is the superintendent. Now, with that power, you can affect a lot of change in the schools, and so I don't take that lightly. So I think as an elected official, we bear the representation, the voice of our constituents and the people. And parents, students, what they want to see as far as education, the best education for their kids. And so using the powers that we have through policy, through oversight of the superintendent, making sure we can get those outcomes.
Thank you. And by the way, my comment wasn't with respect to anything the governor may be particularly proposing. I've just been down there long enough. I don't like looking in general a lot of times, so that's all. You don't take that as directed at any particular thing. You might have laughed at that one, but that's true. Maybe you know what it's like to look down there. Okay, now we're going to do the Las Vegas random method. And so here is the question. You'll have 1 minute. With hindsight being 2020, what do you now think about the mask, vaccine, and remote learning mandates? That's the first part of the question. Were they helpful or harmful, and why? So we'll start in the middle with you, Ms. Beaton. You want me to repeat the question, anybody? You got it in your head? Okay.
Okay, I think most in here probably know my stance on that. I was against mask mandates. I think they were detrimental to our children. At first, it made a little bit of sense because no one was really clear on what was going on. But once more information came out, it was pretty obvious that the mask didn't work and kids were being isolated in school, or at home. And being in front of a Chromebook is like, that's not the best education. Teachers need to be with their students. Did not answer it all. I can't even remember the question, sorry.
3 parts. What do you think? Helpful, harmful, why? I think you hit it. So now we'll move to the right. And we will go to you, Mrs. Jordan. 2020, what do you think about them? Were they helpful, harmful, and why? You have 1 minute.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me? I always feel like I don't have it on right. All right, so the mask mandate, I do not feel was helpful. I do feel like there should be freedom of choice. I think that was taken away from us, but at the beginning I can understand that because this was something new that we were not aware of. However, as time went on, Dr. Fauci and some of his group, I guess you could call it, were encouraging us to continue this. And as the science began to come out, I'm not sure that it was actually validating the use of the mask because of the different types of viruses out there, the COVID virus. I'm not sure that it was doing what it should have been doing as far as being able to screen and keep out the COVID that was supposed to be an issue. I'm not sure that that was the best choice.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to Dr. Driggers.
I'm here.
Okay, your turn. 2020, helpful, harmful, and why? 1 minute.
Okay, let's get this on. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. We will never know. We did it. Those numbers we know. We will never know how many died or lived had we not had the mask and the vaccine. So it's kind of a hard question to answer. My background was biology and chemistry. When the Army got me, they put me in chemical biological warfare. And I was at that place in Utah that doesn't exist. They killed the 6,000 sheep. And I was brought back on active duty when the Soviets went into Afghanistan because they were using biological and chemical weapons. So we have been weaponizing diseases, plants, since the 1950s. And that includes the United States, Russia, China, Britain, and some others.
Thank you.
We'll
Dr.
never know.
Driggers, thank you. Now, we're gonna go back over to Ms. Reeves.
Well, all I have to say is I didn't need 2020 vision to know that mask mandates, vaccine mandates, and whatever else you said, were harmful. I never understood at the time why we weren't talking about natural immunity. And in fact, I was very vocal about that here locally in my neighborhood and elsewhere. I signed the Great Barrington Declaration, which was a group of scientists and public health experts who disagreed with the government's narrative, the public health narrative about vaccines and masking. I signed it very early on. And it's very disappointing to me that the government went to such great lengths to silence those voices, including colluding with social media companies to censor people. So yes, it was very harmful. If we ever encounter something like that again, and I'm on the board, I would never vote for mask mandates.
Thank you. That was good, I think, just one dependent clause and one. Mr. Boston, let's bring back to the far left. I'm not saying anything about you.
No, in my opinion, I don't think there's any doubt that we know it was harmful and that it was not a good idea. I think it became more about wearing religious keffiyeh for the left than anything. The idea that the dirty rags were stopping an airborne virus was just laughable once we actually understood it. And so I think the harm that it probably did to our kids in the classroom and just society in general is one that can't be overstated, in my opinion. I would not do it again. Of course, I do have grace for early on when we didn't know exactly what we were dealing with, but a couple months into it, I think we knew exactly what it was. And I would agree with Dr. Fauci in his first recommendation when he said the masks don't do anything, don't go out and buy them. I think he was right, and I think he changed under pressure for life.
Okay, good. And now we'll go to the far right again, not making a political comment, to you, Ms. Hibma.
Well, yeah, again, I'm agreeing with everyone else here that the mask mandates were inappropriate. Our children were not, most of the children, I'd say, were not part of the vulnerable population of students. And from listening to parents, and they would talk about how their children's masks were full of food and all kinds of things like that, it was not sanitary and just not appropriate at all. So, yeah, I don't agree with mandates, and I think that the learning was affected by that, and the isolation, and all of those same reasons that everyone else gave are reasons why we never should have done that in the first place.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go to another question. We'll have 1 minute, and here it is. There's a push by some for psychological analysis and evaluation of school children. Should schools help to diagnose those kinds of problems, or should the need for such diagnosis remain in the purview of parents? That's the first part of the question. And if so, if it's in the purview of the parents, should it be someone of their choice? And why? So you have 1 minute, and we'll start with Dr. Driggers. Do you need me to repeat the question? It was a long question. Should they diagnose these problems, or should it be left to the purview of parents? And if so, should it be someone the parents choose and why?
It always goes back to the parents. But there should be something available through the school system that the parents ask for. A very long time ago, we were all tested in the 3rd grade, the Myers-Briggs test, to see what kind of learning we had as a child, extrovert, introvert. I don't know if they still do that anymore, but then they would tell the parents how their child's brain is working. Of course, mom knows better, but it should be available but not mandatory.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I took one of those tests, and I was an introverted extrovert, so it was. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, now we're going to go to you, Ms. Reeves. Would you like for me to repeat the question? Okay.
No, I think it's fairly straightforward. Those decisions should always lie with the parents. not with the schools. The school system, the parents should never be subservient to school staff or school employees. So can the school system play a role in alerting parents to whether there's an issue? Yes, I think so. But ultimately, that decision lies with the parents, and they should absolutely have the right to choose which provider they go to seek treatment.
Okay, Mr. Bostic, we will jump over to you.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Ms. Reeves on that. I guess I would wonder what sort of psychological issues are we talking about in some sense. That's a little too broad for me to have a concrete opinion on, as far as there are different, with learning disabilities and things like that teachers are gonna see that of course they should be able to bring up. As far as evaluation and things like that, I think you always defer to the parents. They need to be involved in every step of that process. They have every right to stop it, to move it forward, to say, whoa, I need to know more about this. I would agree, they're not subservient to the school in any means over their own children, that is for sure. But yeah, I would want to know, like, what psychological things are we talking about?
Thank you, Mr. Bostic. Maybe the teacher spotted an inclination to want to be a lawyer, in which case. Anyway, if we could skip to the other side then, to you, Ms. Hidma.
Well, first of all, we need to be aware that school counselors do not have the same professional qualifications as professional counselors outside of the school setting. So that's very important. They are not equipped to make a lot of those psychological evaluations for our students. Now, is there a part for counselors in the school? Definitely, and teachers too. Teachers can be aware if their students have concerns, and they can bring them up to the parents. So there needs to be a collaboration with the school and the parents, but it is definitely the parents' responsibility to choose what kind of services they want or they suspect for their children, for their mental health issues.
Okay. Now we'll go back to you, Ms. Beaton.
Yes, parents' rights come first. And I don't believe that we need to be bringing in therapists and things into the classrooms or into the schools, because we've already seen in other districts around the country where these people are coming in between the parents and the children, and they're making certain suggestions to these children. Number one, you should never, I don't even understand why we're even talking about this issue and putting money, thinking about bringing these therapists into the schools. So that's just how I feel about it.
Thank you. And now we'll come to you, Ms. Jordan.
The first question I would ask about this process is why? Why are you doing a psychological analysis? What type of questions as a parent? I want to know what the process is involving. I think the parents need to be right up front with this process. They need to be informed. And I do not believe that it should be the school's particular position to take the place of a professional, that depending on what the reason is, if you're a school psychologist or if you're a school counselor, that's one thing. But medically speaking, it may be necessary to go outside the school atmosphere. That's where, as a parent, I would rather take that position than, depending on what the reason is for the test. I would think that it would be better for a professional outside the school than one inside the school. I want to know why first.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, we have another question. You'll each have a minute, straightforward question. We will start with you, Ms. Reeves. I don't think we've started with you yet. So what recommendations would you give for rewarding great teachers?
Oh, that's a great question. I would like to see merit-based rewards return to the school system. I'd like to see us give bonuses. And it's not commonplace anymore, but that's what happens in the business world. And I think that we can explore other options as well. There's a lot of intangibles that contribute to teacher satisfaction. And when I'm elected to the board, you know, I would be interested in sending out a survey to teachers. I'd like feedback from them. What about the school environment contributes to their overall well-being and happiness? I think the most important thing that the district needs to do is work on retaining our excellent teachers. So as a board member, I'm open to exploring all various types of avenues in order to accomplish that.
Thank you very much. And we'll flip over to the other side, and Dr. Driggers, your question, what reward would you give? What recommendations for rewarding great teachers?
Again, I believe in merit pay. In the military world or the corporate world, the harder you work, the more success you have, you get recognition of some kind, whether it's a promotion or a Christmas bonus. And I think the teachers that have the best results deserve consideration for something. It may not be a Christmas bonus, but pay tuition or something for them. Ask them what they want, and then be prepared for a hell of a fight from the unions.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. We will go to you, Ms. Stewart.
Yes, great teachers do exist. I know when I was teaching, there was an opportunity to have, and they still do, as I assume, a Teacher of the Year award. And it would be something that would be applicable and tied into merit pay or a bonus pay. I think that would be a good thing to have. Especially if it would be nice that all the teachers that were involved within that school were able to vote for that person because of the different activities that they were involved in, how they've helped their students, how the students have grown within the classroom. I do believe that there should be something else besides just regular pay because they go above and beyond the call of duty. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Beaton, we'll go to you.
Yes, merit pay, bonuses, like others have said, recognition as well. Coming from the corporate world, when you do a good job, a better job than others, you hopefully get a bonus, you get rewarded. Right now, I don't understand how there's a raise that goes across the board and everybody gets the same thing. Where is the incentive to put in the work? We have great teachers, but they're being treated as equals with some not so great teachers. So I feel like I love the fact that they have the recognition of the Teacher of the Year. I think that's great, but you do need to add into that bonuses, merits, things like that.
Thank you. Now we'll flip down to you, Ms. Hidma, if you would. Any recommendations for rewarding great teachers for them?
Yeah, again, bonuses and merit pay, those are all great ideas. Well, I'm kind of thinking of just incentives for teachers by getting rid of the in-state tuition, or not the in-state, the in-county tuition that you pay for teachers who can't afford to live in the district, and so they're still being required to pay tuition if they want their children there. So that's just an incentive to attract and retain teachers. But again, just rewarding them for doing quality education through bonuses, appreciation, things like that.
Okay, thank you. Well, Mr. Bosket, unless you've had Common Core math, you would know that you're the one left.
Luckily, I was before that was out. Yeah, I would just agree with my fellow candidates. I think in everything, merit-based pay, bonuses, incentive structures, all those types of things. I would also agree that I think we would need to kind of ask the teachers, like you said, pay isn't the only metric, especially for the good ones. Sometimes it's just needing support from their administration with dealing with problems in the classroom, unruly students, things like that. I know that was, for my mom, that was one of the biggest issues, that you had children that could basically take over the entire classroom, and there was nothing you could do, literally nothing. I don't know that we have that problem necessarily here in Williamson County, but there's a lot that can be done, I think, to keep good teachers and recruit some new ones as well, for sure.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the next question. Again, you have 1 minute. The estimated number of students currently enrolled in Williamson County is 41,000, which is 12,000 less in capacity. Given this, what is your response to the 5-year, nearly $1 billion capital budget, which would include the building of 8 new schools? I'll read it one more time since it's a long question. Current enrollment 41,000, which is 12,000 less than capacity. What's your response to the 5-year, nearly $1 billion capital budget that includes 8 new schools? 1 minute, and we'll start on the right and go to the left. Ms. Hibma.
Okay. So what do I think of the budget? Well, right now, the expenses and debt in Williamson County are exceeding the revenue in the county, so that's something that we need to consider. I think that that it is the responsibility of the board members when they are planning how do I want to say that, the budget. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we have a good budget that we present to the commissioners. And what I've noticed is that from my hometown, where I was, hang on just a second. From the experience I had when I was growing up in my hometown, we had exponential growth. And what I noticed that the board is not thinking of all the possible ways to deal with our school growth and the repercussions of assuming that the answer is to continue building more schools. Because where I grew up,
Okay, thank
teachers,
you very much.
they had to close the schools.
Yeah. Okay, now we'll go to you, Ms. Reeves.
Yes, okay.
1 minute.
Well, $1 billion is certainly an eye-popping number. And as school board members, we are responsible for really digging into those numbers. As a data person, I definitely want to dig in, look at all those numbers, ask the right questions. And as Tanya referenced, we need to explore other ways to plan for growth, whether that's expanding on an existing school. An interesting idea that was proposed to me today at the mayor's breakfast was, Perry Creek, the land for Perry Creek was donated by the developer, Southern Land. Land is expensive. And so as the county grows, maybe that's something that the county commission, looks at, where if a developer wants to build a new community, maybe they have to donate the land at least to help build a new school there.
Thank you. We'll go to you, Ms. Jordan. The $1 billion school program.
One of my questions would be why? What we have right now is a problem with 400 students less than we did the year before. And we're going to spend $1 billion, that's with a B, toward new buildings. I think we need to recheck that before we start spending taxpayer money. And with that in thought, what about other options? I know we've talked about rezoning. We've heard about that just recently, this past week. So the research needs to be done before the money is spent, in my opinion. What about the demographics? You're building new schools. Well, you're saying there's new growth. Well, what's in the new growth? If there are a lot of people moving into an area where they don't have school children, the retirees, for instance, that might be a problem, because there's not enough children to go within that school system, that school building area. So I think we need to recheck how we're spending our money and the taxpayers' money.
Thank you. Ms. Deaton, your turn, 1 minute.
Yes, I was actually alarmed by it when I saw it, and I wanted to know, what was the study behind it? Why did they come up with this proposal? Why did they decide to build these schools in these certain areas? Do they know something that we don't know as far as the growth, especially since we're under capacity right now? And the one surprising thing for me was, who are we gonna buy the land from? Are they going to give us a fair price on it? Are they gonna donate it? I think that's an excellent idea, especially since we give them tax breaks when businesses come here or developers come here. The thing that surprised me the most was the fact that central office wanted their own building. And I feel like so we have to buy the land for it and build it. If they need a new space, say they run out of space at the administrative building where they do not pay any rent, I would say look at all the open lease, commercial lease
That's good. Dr. Driggers, your turn, 1 minute.
Okay, I would mention that the 1 billion is not a fixed number, it's a projection. The school board and others look at expected population growth and the age groups of that growth. And in 21, the population growth flattened and has actually gone down a little in 22, 23, and I do believe the school board kind of suspended things for a year so that they could see what's going on. Other things besides donation of land and such, the way they do it other places, you have year-round schools. So you go to school for 3 months, you have 1 month off. You go to school for 3 months, you have 1 month off. At the end of the year, you've had 9 months of education, 3 months of vacation, and it really helps the students and the teachers and others from burnout.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bostic, your 1 minute.
Yeah, so I know that 1 billion is a huge, huge sum, and it was shocking. And I know the board themselves had some reservations when they met and discussed it. And I was at that meeting, I believe, or watched it online, and I heard some of the discussion there. And so I know that they are taking some precautions with that, and it is a projection. I know they factored in things like supply chain issues and inflation, and all of that was projecting out for the 5 years. So hopefully that's an inflated number. But also, I think we have to take into consideration that we did have a low growth as far as last year goes compared to previous years. Is that a trend? We don't know. We also have the governor's, school choice that could be coming down the pipe. What's that going to look like? How's that going to affect the needs? So I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, and we have to look at all of it for sure, and make sure we're doing the right thing with all of our money.
Thank you. We have another 1 minute question, and I'll decide as I ask where we'll start. Do you believe, I was going to say perhaps the Duggar family's moving to Williamson County. Do you believe the Williamson County School Board can exhibit better transparency and accountability in the use of financial resources? If so, what would you propose? So we'll start in the middle, if we can, with Ms. Beaton. Can we do better, and if so, what would you propose?
Can you say it one more time?
Yes. Do you believe the Williamson County School Board can exhibit better transparency and accountability in the use of financial resources? And if so, what would you propose?
I believe there should be, I'm all for transparency, especially how tax dollars are spent. And I'm just recently was told that we don't have a line item veto. And I'm very confused about that, because with accountability, you have to have transparency. And I think that information should be released to taxpayers and the teachers and the parents beforehand, so.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to Dr. Driggers, if we can. 1 minute.
There is transparency by law. Any member of Tennessee Public can get all those numbers if they want them. So I'm not sure how the school board can have more transparency. Certain legal issues are not open to the public, like crime, personnel actions, adverse personnel actions. But the money, every penny of the money is in the public domain. All you gotta do is go look at it.
Thank you. And we'll go over to you, Ms. Jordan.
Yes, I'm in total agreement with what you just said. I've gone online and looked at the numbers, and the information is there if you want to take a look at it. The numbers are very transparent. They're there for our information. I think that there is accountability there in that respect. So I also think, of course, they're coming from several sources. You've got your property taxes, you've got your state resource, and of course the federal, which pays a part of that as well. So there are availability methods of finding out if you're willing to dig a little bit. You'll be able to see that information as well, which I have done. So that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Reeves?
Yes, it is available. I mean, actually, if you go and you peruse the district website, you'll find all that information. I think the one thing that I'd say is that there's ways that that information can be presented in various formats that makes it easier to digest, you know, using pie charts and whatnot, something that people are more familiar with so that they can see categories where the money is going. The largest percentage of our educational dollars goes to personnel. It goes to our teachers and staff. But it is there, it's freely available. I've looked at the 5-year projections for not only this year and projecting forward, but also you can find previous years as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bostic, swing around that way.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I agree with what other candidates have said here, that, you know, it is kind of there and available to look at. As you know, the board operates under the Sunshine Law, so what they do is open to the public. Anybody here can go to a school board meeting. Anybody can go to a work session. You can see it all. You have every right to do that. And so it is incumbent upon us to, you know, be informed citizens as well. But I think probably where people have a little bit of rub is maybe specific data points. If there's something like, well, we see this bucket, but what exactly all is involved in that bucket? And money is fungible, let's be honest. So maybe there could be a better job of providing a little more specific data on certain areas. And I know data is kind of a challenge with this current administration anyway, so, yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Hibble, your turn.
Again, I concur with all the other candidates up here on the school budget. And again, what I was considering, because we're gonna have at least 5 or 6 new candidates or school board members, that we should have a line item veto, so as a board, we can understand better what is in the budget, and if we want to reallocate resources to better teacher pay and things like that. But again, it is there for us to see, but we just need to maybe have a little bit more explanation from the district on where the money is being spent, you know.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question, again in 1 minute, is should schools have the ability to provide non-emergency medical treatment to children either on or off-site? Schools provide non-emergency medical treatment to children either on or off-site. So we'll start with you, Mr. Boston.
I don't know what that would be in some sense. Are we talking Band-Aids or are we talking gender therapies? You know what I mean? That's a big difference. So I mean, I would say that if it's something that's in lieu of the parents or hidden from the parents, absolutely not. If it's non-emergency medical, I don't think that's anything that's to be handled by the school, really, in any sense. So, but particularly when it comes, if we're talking about what I think we're talking about, absolutely not, has no place in school.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll skip down to you, Sidma. Non-emergency, on or off-site.
I think I'm in agreement with Tony, because if it's not an emergency, then it can wait until the parents are informed. Maybe you can, you know, tell the parents this is the situation, but definitely not without parental consent at all.
Thank you. We'll go to you, Ms. Reeves.
Well, as a parent of a child who loves to visit the school nurse, I mean, all schools have a nurse, and they do provide non-emergency treatments. You know, if a kid has a headache, they're gonna go and they're gonna get some Tylenol or Advil, and parents typically at the start of the school year sign consent forms for that type of thing. We also sign consent forms for field trips, because the same thing might happen on a field trip, or somebody falls down and busts their lip open. Yes, absolutely, teachers need to be able to provide non-emergency medical treatment in those situations. So I mean, that's where I land on it. We need school nurses. Things happen at schools, and kids need to be treated when issues arise.
Thank you. Dr. Driggers?
That's a surprise. Come on.
It's like hitting the lottery.
How many of you remember the nurse with the little white hat in school? Am I the only one? Okay, I agree. We're talking about gender reassignment. Hell no. But every school should have, if not an RN, an LVN, somebody there to take the scratches and the bruises and medication and things like that. We had it. You could use retired military medics and corpsmen, or retired nurses and things who want to help out. But Williamson County has the funds to have first aid in every school, just like we have an armed law enforcement. That's all.
Thank you. Now we'll go to you, and we'll surprise things with going to Ms. Jordan.
Well, this made me think back just a few years ago when our youngest son was involved with an incident in the classroom. There were two of them that were working, I guess, on a project, you might say, and one of them had a pair of scissors, okay? Well, it just happened to be that he let go of the scissors just in time to kind of cut between two fingers on his hand, and we had to take him to the doctor and get stitches. If it was a little bit deeper, he said he would have had surgery. So things can happen. And we do want to be able to have nurses available for, like we said, the Band-Aids that need to be there, or the sniffles, or even permission to take medicine. They're granted by the family, by the parents. And those are good things. We need nurses for that reason. But we know that the parents are the ones that are going to finally make that decision as to what needs to be done, and especially in emergency where they need to go off the school grounds. Thank you.
Go. Ms. B.
We already have amazing nurses in our schools. My kids were very fortunate at every school that they've been to have amazing nurses. I've gotten to know the nurses. We have children in there who have to take medicine during the day, and they're the only ones that can administer it. The children can't even take that on their own. So as far as that goes, yes, the boo-boos, the bumps, the medicine, things like that. But if you're gonna make it very broad, as what other people have suggested, that's a big no-no. But I'm hoping that question is pretty innocent about the nurses.
I didn't write the question, but as a lawyer, it would have gone on, so don't worry. Okay, here we go. 1 minute again. What are your thoughts about how curriculum should be reviewed and adopted? And as part of the how, who should review the curriculum for input purposes? So let me read that again, I called it. What are your thoughts about how curriculum should be reviewed and adopted? And as part of the how, who should review the curriculum for input purposes? So let's begin with Ms. Hibla.
Well, first of all, the publishers are selected at the state level. So right now, I know the state is working on getting out the Common Core out of the curriculum that is being presented to us. Last year, the math curriculum, when I reviewed it, it had social emotional learning in there. So, I mean, this is going a little bit off topic, but we need to make sure at the state level that the Common Core, the DEI, all of that stuff is out of the curriculum, because then it doesn't matter what curriculum you choose, it's not appropriate for the kids. So that's my big take on that. But as far as the school board members, they should be looking at the materials and seeing what's in there, making sure that it's appropriate, it meets all the criteria. The teachers need to be looking at the curriculum and have their input, and of course the parents, and they do have those parent days when you can go in, as I did this past summer.
Thank you. Okay, we'll skip down to Mr. Bostic. You need me to repeat the question? Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, what are your thoughts about how curriculum should be reviewed and adopted? And as part of the how, who should review the curriculum for input purposes?
Yeah, well, I think, obviously, yes, you gotta have the teachers and the administration's involvement in that. They're the ones that are gonna be doling that out and presenting it to the class, so you want their input paramount, I think, in that. But also, we as the board, the parents, people in the community also have a right to know what all is included in that. And I think the biggest things right now that people are concerned about is kind of what Tanya alluded to is, do these include things like critical race theory? Do these include things like DEI and all of that? And that needs to be completely eradicated from the curriculum at every level. And it has no place. It breaks down society, it breaks down education. And so beyond that though, I think getting input from the people that are going to be implementing it is huge. And we certainly take a look at it.
Okay, we'll skip over to you, Ms. Jordan, if you would.
Yes, so teachers have an ability to see the adoption process at work at their schools because they were able to look at the books and make a choice and also tell what was the favorite choice of that adoption series of the different books that were available. Parents have a time that they can go in and take a look at the books, see what they're about, and then of course time went by and all of a sudden there was an opportunity to find out which book was chosen. To me, I wasn't sure what was going on between the time we voted for what the books that we would think as a professional would be the best choice and what ended up as the book of choice, the adoption series. How did that happen? Who was on that curriculum board? There needs to be some transparency there. I would love to see school board members on there, and currently it's my understanding that they're not on that committee, and they need to be there. And a very other group as well, parents and concerned professionals.
Thank you. Dr. Driggers?
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Again, my background's a little different. I've never taught K through 12, but I did teach at the university 25 years, and I taught 14,000 students. Oh. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I can tell you, seeing what was coming out of the high schools was depressing. I'm really old. I'm a dinosaur in a world of mammals. And so there has to be a curriculum committee of some kind. I worked with Chicago. They had a worldwide program through the Department of Defense for $500 million. So any service member anywhere in the world could do 3 years of military service and get an AA degree paid for when they left. My job was to see the social sciences, of which there were 40 of them, and I had to review and make sure that they were appropriate. So there's got to be a lot of people involved in this.
Thank you. We'll skip over to you, Ms. Reeves.
So there is a process for curriculum review here in the county. It does involve sessions that are open to the public for anyone to go and review the curriculum and provide feedback. There are also committees that include teachers and parents and math specialists who give their feedback. Questions that I have would be, again, providing the more transparency. I went and reviewed the 5 elementary curriculums under consideration about this time last year, and we ended up with my 5th choice. I want to know, did the board members see the parent feedback from those open public review sessions? And teachers, certainly, and Darlene alluded to this, there is a perception among teachers that central office is always going to pick the curriculum that they favor. And that's an urban legend that's existed for a long time.
Ms. B.
While everyone had, explained it to you and had a great point, I think one thing that we are lacking in are reaching out to our retired teachers and asking their input And as far as, the public coming in and reviewing it, not every parent has that time to review it. So a lot of them are assuming that the teachers have more input than they do, and obviously they don't. So I'd like to see them reaching out to our great teachers that have retired and asking, their input.
Are we okay on microphones up there? Just pass them around. I hate
No,
to
we are now.
get interrupted and lose some of their time. Okay. Where was I? Okay. Here we go. Okay, 1 minute again. Please explain your understanding of social emotional learning and what role you believe it should play in K through 12 education. Explain your understanding of social emotional learning and what role you believe it should play in K through 12.
So,
Let's start with you, Ms. Beaton.
I got an easy.
Are these questions taking a social and emotional toll?
First off, I don't believe that social-emotional learning has any place K through 12. Absolutely not. What was the second?
The question is your understanding of it and what role.
I don't think it has a role at all.
Good. That's it.
That's it.
That's fine. You don't have to be a lawyer, right? You can just. Okay. We'll skip down to Ms. Reeves. I think we've gone with this order.
Okay, SEL, in my opinion, is focusing on how kids feel, focusing on their mindset, how they feel towards a certain subject. I think that maybe intentions were good in wanting to introduce SEL into the school system. You know, there's a lot of kids that struggle with self-image and whatnot, but one of the reasons I did not like this math curriculum that's been adopted is that it has subtle SEL throughout it. It has these mindset prompts that ask questions like, how can you contribute to a positive classroom culture? Or how could you make your fellow classmate feel comfortable with the ways that they think about math? That has no place in our math curriculum. We should be teaching our children how to think, not what to think. We should be teaching our kids to think critically and not be emotional thinkers.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll skip down to Mr. Bostic. What is social, your understanding, and what role should it play?
Yeah, I think she kind of set it forth really good there with the social emotional aspect of it. It just seems pathetic on its face, to be honest. I'm not of the mind that we don't teach kids what to think. I know exactly what you mean. I totally agree with your premise. But to teach someone how to think, you first have to teach them what to think. 2 + 2 = 4. And if you don't have that true north, then you can't understand math at any level. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have to teach them that there is right and wrong, that there are true answers and there are false answers. That's just part of education. We don't want to indoctrinate, yes, but indoctrination and education are from the same root word. I think what we all mean is we don't want to indoctrinate kids in crazy leftist ideologies that have no place in reality. That's what we need to focus on. We want to teach kids the tools that they need to become productive citizens of our society and to better their lives on the career path of what they do after K through 12.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Jordan.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Sorry, I don't know how I got this one. I totally agree with what they're saying as far as the emotional and the social part of this learning is not a part of the process of the intellectual learning within the classroom. I think we're trying to incorporate too many different styles of learning and what goes best with the core material that you need to have subject matter and standards. When you're incorporating all of this extra load, it becomes something that inhibits the learning process. So I say no, there's no place for that. You need critical thinking skills. Yes, you can focus on that. But other than that, I think we're going in a direction where it's not profitable for the student. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see if we have any help coming from the back. I have some cough drops in the car, but I don't think that's what we need. So I will emergency hand you a microphone if you start scratching, okay? So let's go to Dr. Driggers.
I don't know what it is, but I'll know by breakfast. And if I don't know what it is, then we probably don't need it. That's all.
Okay. Ms. Hibma.
Yes, I don't believe that social emotional learning has any place in the classroom setting or any kind of CRT, DEI. It takes away from the educational instructional time. Is my thing on there?
Is it working?
Okay. So, yeah, it takes away from the instructional time in the classroom.
Not working.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. Try that.
It takes away from the instructional time in the classroom. And the classroom time should focus on unity and equality. It should focus on kindness and respect. And the instruction on teaching excellence in the subject matter so that the students master the basics, the phonics, the math, and all those things. That's what we should be spending our time in, and not on any Common Core CRT materials.
Thank you. We'll hope this microphone works and maybe the answer to this question will be short. 1 minute. What are your thoughts about third grade retention law? And let's just start with Mr. Bostic.
Well, I'm not as familiar with this one, but I know that it's become kind of an issue. Recently, I heard some talks about it. I know it was, I think, up at the last school board meeting. I'm open to learning more about it. I think the idea is that holding someone back, correct? Holding them back into the third grade if they need to, retaining them back for the past. I think you have to do that in some sense. What the metrics are for that, I think, is the problem, and where maybe they're running into issues and stuff like that. And so I think you have to take a better look at how are we evaluating that? What is that percentage of student body going into that? What's the remedy? I know they talk about summer school and things like that, trying to remedy it, and of course there's some other solutions as well. But I know it's becoming more and more kind of a hot button issue.
Okay, Dr. Driggers. Let me encourage you to use that mic. It worked.
Okay, yeah. In general, I'm in favor of testing because you have to know what you've got. And there are plenty of studies that if you can't read by the end of the third grade, you're going to go downhill. You're not going to have an epiphany in the 7th grade and all of a sudden you can read. You're going to go downhill. So you need to fix it at the time you find it. And there are ways to fix it, the tutoring and all kinds of things. Again, what do you want them to read? But yeah, you've got to know, because it just gets worse. It doesn't get better.
Thank you. Now we'll skip down to Ms. Reeves.
The main thing I don't like about the law is that it relies on one measure, which is the results from the TCAP testing. And I think that's really unfortunate because there's a lot of kids out there who have test anxiety who may not do well for whatever reason on that day. Maybe they just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And so my heart goes out to those students. I agree, studies show that if you're not reading proficiently by the end of third grade, that's an issue. But I think that the law should take into account other factors and that the teachers should be involved in making those decisions along with the parents. And it requires tough conversations sometimes, but it shouldn't just rely on a single output.
Thank you. Ms. Hibma, why don't you use that microphone?
I'm in agreement with Claire, and that I do think it's good that we make aware to the parents and the teachers that this student might be struggling in their reading skills. But just with my two daughters, I have one that tests really well, and the other one just has a lot of test anxiety. And so again, you need to have some participation with the parents and the teachers, and does this child need some summer remedial reading? And the other issue is that same thing goes on in fourth grade. It's like, what happens to these fourth graders? That's part of the equation too. It's like, so parents and teachers need to be in along with that and not just one solitary test score.
Okay. Now, we will go to you, Ms. Beaton.
Yes, I am not in favor of this law. While I believe that you need to know whether the children are ready, to base it on one test score, it's the ELA test score, without any input from the school, any input from the teacher is ridiculous. As a matter of fact, I just got off the phone with a friend of mine who knows someone that was affected by this law. And while the school district gives them, summer school, and that's great, the fourth grade parents are already being told now, we don't know when we're gonna have that summer school this year, just expect June or July. And she was saying that everybody, it was a blanket email that went out today, so no one's able to plan anything. Because it's all based on the TCAP test score. I think the law should be rewritten or.
Okay. And now we'll go to you, Ms. Jordan.
This retention law, I think that's depending on if it's one subject matter, we could go with the summer school program. I taught summer school at Brentwood High School. I taught geometry and algebra, helping the students that had actually failed, whether it was for one reason or another. That's one matter. If it's the whole entire grade level average, I've got here that 28% of the third graders failed. They failed to achieve grade level. I want to know, why is that happening? What's going on with the situation that's not acceptable? And what are the guidelines that they're using? I think there are case-by-case issues where a child may need to be retained for various reasons, not just one particular reason. And I think report card needs to enter into this. This is a whole year. You've got every 9 weeks, you're getting report cards. That needs to enter into the picture, as well as what's going on with the particular achievement test, the TCAP scores. So in retrospect, I think there might be a need.
That's good. That's good. Now we'll have a moment of audience participation. If emotional, social, and social learning had been in your school in third grade in the retention law, would you have ever reached the fourth grade? All right, that's just a little joke, take it as you like. Okay, this one's gonna require a little thinking, so I thought we'd break it up in my backyard. Here we go. There's gonna be a long explanation and then a question. One of the requirements of the Age-Appropriate Materials Act of 2022 is that public schools must adopt a policy for developing and reviewing materials in its library collection. And the policy must include procedures to develop, periodically review, and evaluate feedback regarding that collection to assure it is age appropriate for the age and maturity levels of the students who may access the material, and suitable for and consistent with the educational mission of the school. If you need me to repeat that, I will, but I'm just going to tell you what the question is, and you can go from there. If you discovered materials that you believe do not comply with this act, how would you address it? You have 1 minute, and Ms. Hibma, we'll start with you.
So are we assuming that the school board has the standards? Is that correct?
I think the bottom line question is, whatever that thing says, okay, about age appropriate and all that, assuming there's a policy in place, what would you do if you found it? How would you address it?
So this is reading material, so if I was to find it, I would definitely present it to the board, and we would have to review it according to the standards and the policies. If we found that, that this book still is not up to snuff according to the standards, we may have to review the policy and make changes on that. That's one option. And we should get input from parents to see if they find this book objectionable. And that's kind of what I would do.
Okay. So, again, let me repeat the question. If you discover the materials that violate, I think, if I understand, assume that there's a policy in place. Let's not argue there is or isn't, or let's not argue that it's good or bad, but whatever you think the policy is, if you find something, what would you do? So, with that, then let's go to Ms. Reeves.
If I found something, I would absolutely, bring it before the board. I think the policy that exists outlines how parents can go through the reconsideration process, but it's vague on the two other parts of the act, which would be defining guidelines for selecting materials that enter our libraries and for reviewing them. Right now, the policy states that there should be a periodic review. Well, what does that mean exactly? So I think that the board can definitely do further work to clearly define guidelines so that we don't have to use the reconsideration process as much.
Okay, thank you. We'll skip down to Mr. Bostic.
Yeah, so assuming that it's in place, of course, if we find it, then I think you have to find out, well, how did it get there then? Why is it there? Go back to that. And have it removed. And then I think there has to be some sort of remedy as to how it got in the first place, whatever that involves. Whether that's a person that brought it in or whatever the case may be. As far as the policy goes, I do agree that there is like a thing in place right now that it says that there should be periodic review. I think we all know that means absolutely nothing. Who is it that's actually doing it? When is it being done? It's just pathetic. It's vagary to avoid the issue because it's a hard issue and nobody wants to be called a book banner. Well, I'm fine being called a book banner. There's no constitutional right to obscenity. We should not have pornography in our schools for our children. And I think we need to look at who's even curating these sorts of books in the first place and stop the flow of them coming in and then deal with what we have that's there.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate y'all's appreciation for my moderation tonight. I'm working hard at this, but please reserve your applause at the end for the school board candidates. Okay, if we could, we're going to go to Ms. Jordan.
Yes, my question is, why did we find this book in the library in the first place? We're seeing the school board having the ability to review and rate books, and we're concerned that that's not happening. If it's not happening, why not? We need to be looking at ways to take, and like I said, if the book's there, why? Take that information to the librarian, who also needs to take that information to the principal, and therefore let the school board know if these guidelines are not being followed, or are there guidelines to be followed. I think we do need them. If we're not, we've got restrictions on the internet. We don't allow students on the internet just at randomness. So why are we allowing books in the library just to be chosen because they're there? So there is some guidelines that need to be in place. And by the way, there are school fairs that have the same problem. We need to be checking on the Scholastic Book Club. And my understanding is Kirk Cameron has a very good program. Bring in those into the school and allow that, you won't have to worry about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reeves. Oh, you did? Well, excellent. I think I was so overcome emotionally from the applause that I'm just struggling socially, I guess. Ms. Bean, would you like a chance at that? Yeah.
Well, if I discovered something like that, I would remove it immediately. Sexually graphic books have no place in our schools. I don't care what your opinion is on it. I don't care if you allow your children to read that stuff at home. If they want to read that, they can go to the public schools, or public libraries, order it off Amazon, or go to Barnes and Noble. There's absolutely no place for that. We don't allow our kids, our students, to have Chromebooks that has just, you can go to porn sites in the schools, do we? No, we don't. And I feel the same way about those. I think we should have, and again, the fact that you're trying to call it book banning, that is ridiculous. You're not trying to shut down the author and, you know, burn their books per se. You just want, let kids be kids, for Pete's sake.
Okay, Dr. Grigger, it's your opportunity.
Okay, it depends. Did I find the book as a parent, a grandparent? Did I find the book as a grandparent? Then I go to the principal. And the principal and I go to the teacher and we find out why that book is in the class. On the school board, it's different. The librarians propose books based on what the teachers tell them. And remember, there's the public library in the school, but there's also the teacher's personal library in their classroom. Okay? And remember, Williamson County, we are an island in Tennessee. And Tennessee is an island in the United States. This school board did review all the objectionable books. It's online, you can go find it, you can find what books they looked at. And I think they decided there were 5 or 6 that just had no real educational purpose. So,
Thank you, that's great. Now, I'm going to ask you in this next question, what is your stance on the bill that's pending in front of the legislature? Okay, so here's the bill. I want you to know in advance what I'm going to ask about it. Do you like it or not? Okay, what's your stance? Representative John Reagan has filed House Bill 1661, which would enact the restricted access by minors to obscene library materials and amends provisions of the code. The bill requires that materials meet contemporary community standards with respect to what is not suitable for display or distribution and that's readily accessible by a minor. These contemporary community standards relate to any book or pamphlet, magazine, movie, video, drawing, sculpture, video that is determined to be obscene, harmful to minors, depict excess violence, or to depict nudity, and it applies to public libraries, libraries operated by local government, or housed in government-owned facilities or vehicles, libraries at public schools of higher education, and under the LEA charter schools and magnet schools. So let me read the bill again, if that's okay. Anybody mind? You know,
you got a minute.
for the listening audience, it's okay. Thank you, I'm the moderator. I feel your pain. The bill requires materials meet contemporary community standards with respect to what is not suitable for display and that's readily accessible by a minor. The standards relate to any book, pamphlet, magazine, movie, photo, drawing, sculpture, video that's determined to be obscene, harmful to minors, depicts excess violence, or to depict nudity. It applies to virtually every library, including the schools. So, what's your stance on a bill like that? Okay, everybody had a chance to dive. Let's start with Mr. Bostic.
I guess my question would be, what's the contemporary community? Who is that? How is that decided? What's that made up of? I don't know if you have any answer to that. Well, and this is why I say it. So,
I'll give you a lawyer quick answer.
Yeah.
Okay. The way I would think about it is that I see something in a bookstore, like Amazon, and it's grossly filthy. So I'm the district attorney and I prosecute them for violating the law. And what would happen is they would bring in witnesses to decide what the community standards were. So in an Amish community, Ladies Home Journal might not qualify, right? Just saying. If you're in Vegas, then the contemporary community standard would be different. So I think that's what they're trying to say. Within Williamson County, what are our contemporary community standards? That's how to be judged. And would you support that kind of bill? So the way I would read it, I'm a legislator and a lawyer, is that might be one thing in Lyon County, it might be another thing in Decatur County, it might be a different thing in Williamson County. But the community would They would look at what the community thinks is okay. That help?
Sorta. I would take then community as, since we would be representations of the community, that we would have the deciding vote. So if it's me, I'm banning it. So, it's pretty easy. So I guess then I would say, yes, I would like that bill. If I'm the one who gets to choose, I'm banning the porn in schools.
Okay. You know, that's swell. The reason I mention that is that the word sculpture in there, but I'm not a legislator anymore, and there may be a sculpture taken wherever, you know, in a book, and all of a sudden it's like, oh! So let's skip that, okay? Otherwise, you know, so re-elect me to the Tennessee State Senate, and I will take that word. Okay, but I'm not there, so here we go. Using your best common sense judgment, what do you think? And we'll start with you, Ms. Reed.
It sounds like a very broad bill, and you did say sculpture, and that's exactly where my mind went, to the David. And if a high schooler is taking in our history class, they're gonna see pictures of the David, along with a lot of other Renaissance paintings and whatnot. So I think we have to be, these are very nuanced issues. We have the Age Appropriate Materials Act already, and I think that's a great place to start. I think we all agree that we don't want our kids exposed to materials that are not appropriate for their age. But to me, this bill seems very, very broad, and that's really all I can say about it. I mean, I think of all the legitimate exceptions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Jervers.
Okay. Okay,
Jervers, excuse me.
I'm assuming this is a Tennessee statute, applies everywhere, but each county would be able to determine what is in its best interest.
That's right.
As I said, Williamson County is an island. There are other islands, but yeah, you have an outreach with the public, you get together, and you decide if that's what you want or not. It also depends on age. You can't, you know, are you gonna outlaw Shakespeare, you know, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, Hamlet, you know, for the, because of some of the text, or not? So, yeah. The community decides for the county within.
Thank you, Dr. Jervers. One of my favorite lines was, "If this be sin, give me sin again." But anyway, and it was clean, okay? Okay, Ms. Hidlaw.
Yeah, it is a very broad bill in scope, but if we are looking at materials that are vulgar and things like that, I am more inclined with Tony and to say, yes, let's ban it in our public schools, let's ban it in our public libraries, because it's vulgar, it's pornographic. It's not anything that we want our children to be accessible to reaching in the public library. If they still want those books in the public library, they can be back behind the counter where only the adults can get to them, but they should not be accessible at all for any children under 18.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Beaton.
This may be a very unpopular opinion, but as the bill is written right now, I'm not for it. There's just too many nuances, because it includes public libraries as well. Did I hear that correctly?
That's what it said.
And the community of, say, Shelby or Davidson County is gonna be very different from Williamson County. Art, for example, someone may, like the sculpture of David was the first thing in my mind as well. They may think that is vulgar, but then on the other hand, you've got some people who are fine with the books that are currently in there, describing graphic things. So, as the law is written, I'm not necessarily, I just think there's better laws, better bills out there.
Thank you. And as I read the bill, it does apply to all libraries, not
Right.
just school libraries.
Oh.
So, now, we go to you, Ms. Jordan.
This is a very,
No.
I think it's on now. This is a very broad and wordy bill. I think the way you interpret it depends on what community you're in, sounds like to me. Williamson County, like we said, was gonna vary between what Dixon County might determine this bill to be. I think this is pretty easy to say that, no, I wouldn't go along with it. It's no excess for under 18. And another way to describe it is it depends on what your definition of art is. There's another quote that's similar. But anyway, I think that this is kind of a poorly written bill. Maybe take it on a second look at it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 more questions left and then a lightning round. So here's this question. It has 2 parts. You each have 1 minute. What are your thoughts on school safety? Now, if you think they should be dangerous, you don't need to go to the second part of the question, okay? What are your thoughts on school safety and how to make sure our schools are safe for students, teachers, and staff? So what are your thoughts on it? Okay? Here we go. We'll start with you, Ms. Reeves.
So, I am a proponent of hardening schools, and the district has taken measures to do that, especially, again, taking another look after recent Covenant shootings, using film that prevents windows from shattering when a bullet is shot at them, having one main entrance during the school day where visitors have to buzz in and show their ID to even gain access to the building. I fully support all those measures, but I also think that we should focus on prevention. And so the district has also taken measures to establish a tip line. I wasn't aware of this, but there is a 24-hour tip line, and I'm going to show the number. It's 615-472-5555. And they've also created a threat assessment team. School shooters tend to have been bullied. We need our students and teachers to start saying something when they see something.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Reeves, we'll go to you, Ms. Beaton, please. Oh, yeah, repeat it. What are your thoughts on school safety and how to make sure our schools are safe for students, teachers, and staff?
My thoughts on school safety is they should be safe. That's a very odd question. It was kind of like when we were originally asked what our opinion on gun violence in our schools was. Like, who seriously is gonna answer that? Right, who would have, no offense.
That's why I made a little comment about it.
It wasn't the moderator.
And while we have put in a lot of protocol to make the schools safer, such as buzzing the door, showing your ID, things like that, especially even for parents, I believe that I think we still have to have SROs at every school. I just think that is a travesty that I'm hearing that some of our schools don't have them because we don't have the staff for them. And as far as someone with ill intent is less likely to commit a crime in our schools if they know that they're going to be met with someone with a gun.
Thank you. Ms. Jordan.
I think Williamson County Schools are doing a good job to keep our students safe, like the protective film that's on the glass, on the doors, check in when you're having a visitor, giving them an ID. Those are very, very good screens. That does help. There's not 100% prevention from keeping someone to do something if they want to. All you gotta do is crack a door and someone can get in. That happened to my classroom. Back when I was teaching at Grassland Elementary, but it was on the weekend when no one was there, and they found a door. They were able to go in and cause chaos and throw furniture and that type of thing. So if they want to, bad enough, I feel like they will, try to get in outside the building. I think that there is a good amount of control when you have an SRO in the building. Another thought is perhaps maybe having them undercover, not being able to identify them. Is that a good thing? That was a thought that was brought to me. And maybe watch out as far as the gun control thing. I think that's not necessary for teachers.
Mr. Bostic?
Yeah, of course, it's definitely something that deserves a serious look at it for sure. And anything that would soften up our schools by any means, I just think is totally despicable. I'm for any measures that would lead to hardening up our buildings, our structures, whatever that might look like, all of those protocols in place, systems, whatever we need. I'm for armed guards at schools, as many as we can afford, and any other policies that would help to first deter people from trying to come into the building. But if we have an active shooter or shooters in the building, taking care of that effectively and immediately. I'm for whatever we can do to make sure that we don't have another covenant type thing happening again.
Ms. Hidma?
These are all wonderful examples that have been presented, and I'm glad to hear that our schools are also have been securing our school facilities so there's safety. One thing that I would like to bring up is presenting the idea of having an annual active shooter training classes for the faculty and the staff. It is a way to discourage shooters, and it also teaches how the staff and the teachers can react during an active shooter situation on campus. And personally, I have attended this type of training and I found it beneficial, and that it increased my awareness and my preparedness. And that is a wonderful way to do that, so that you know exactly what to do if and when a situation like that could occur.
Okay. Dr. Driggers?
Okay. How about, no. Now we got it. Okay, safety, my number one thing. Once you get shot, it's too late to say, oops, I should have ducked. The magnetic detectors at the doors, they can process 2 or 3 students per second. Metal detectors, so you're going to need the help of the students and the parents so they don't put a lot of metal in their backpacks. We haven't really mentioned it, but I'm for the concealed weapons for select teachers and staff. Their training would have to be at least as rigorous as our deputies or Secret Service, those kind of people, and that includes psychological evaluations and all kinds of things. The other downside is the person has to keep the weapon on them at all times. They can't put it in a desk drawer, they can't put it in their purse or anything, it's gotta be there. But, yeah.
Okay.
The technology's there, the fund's there, we need the will.
Thank you. I've been keeping track. Somebody answered that question, didn't they? Okay, I thought so. Okay. 1 minute. What's your plan for being transparent with your constituents in your district? 1 minute. And let's start with Ms. Beaton.
Well, I intend on hopefully getting the email list of all my constituents and being able to keep up with them on a monthly basis. One of the other plans I thought would be nice is to have, a coffee with your school board member at a public place or at the library. Have that at least once every 2 months. I think the people, whether they're parents or taxpayers, can come and voice their concerns and ask questions of me and possibly, get some more work done.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hidma.
Yeah, I would use phone calls, the emails, as well as, like meeting in a restaurant for, quarterly meetings just to discuss what their concerns are. Or like right now, you'd be discussing what kind of bills are going on at the Capitol and their concerns on those kind of things. And then, you know, as the school board member, you can go up and talk to representatives and give them feedback on what, if they like a bill or if they don't like a bill, so.
Dr. Dreers.
Let's try that, right? Deputy, can you hear me? Oh, he said yes, okay, oh, sorry. Okay, there's telephone, there's email, I've set up a special email to keep it separate from personal things. There's also the email system through the Williamson County Schools, you can do that. Did I mention I'm retired twice? I have the time to meet with anybody, anywhere. So, yeah, give me a call, we'll work it out, because I have no other pressing obligations but to get on this board and keep an eye open.
Thank you. Ms. Reeves.
Constituents will be able to communicate with me through various channels, email, phone calls, individual meetings, and even group meetings if they'd like. You know, I am here to serve the families in my district, and I want to listen to their concerns and work towards solutions. I also plan to leverage social media purely as a way to communicate various district initiatives and to keep people informed on what's going on. I highly recommend that people subscribe to In Focus, the weekly newsletter. It's a great resource, and I plan to share and highlight certain sections of that newsletter as well on social media.
Okay. Ms. Jordan.
Yes, I would agree. Hear me? Yes, I would agree with several of those ideas. I believe social media is an excellent place. My website, my Facebook page, and my Instagram page, you can keep up with what's going on, because I'll be posting that information on there, welcoming phone calls, emails, getting back to you and communicating that way. At least quarterly, having an invitation to have a coffee and conversation at some restaurant there here in the Franklin area. So yes, communication is very important. I would say I would have a listening ear and a servant's heart. So whenever you have a question, let me know. Thank you.
Mr. Bostic.
I would just echo what the other candidates have said as well. You know, certainly by phone and email, certainly by the Williamson County School email. I intend to use, you know, social media to provide updates and things like that as well. And then I'm also willing to meet with people. Just whoever wants to meet with me can reach out and we'll make it happen. I have a flexibility of schedule to do that. So happy to meet with anybody, talk with anybody, and hopefully have good answers for them or not. They might not like the ones I have. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm open to have a conversation.
Okay. I hope you'll all notice that they do not plan to use fax machines. Now we have a lightning round where you get a yes or no. That's it. The complex compound sentence rule does not apply. It's yes or no. Here we go. And I'm just going to go from left to right, right to left on these. Here we go. Are gun control laws the answer to gun violence in schools? Mr. Bostic.
No.
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 Okay, right to left. Are parental rights subservient to the rights of Williamson County schools?
No.
Nope.
No. No.
Never.
No.
Okay. Here we go, and we'll just go again left to right. Representative Gino Bolso and Senator Joy Hensley have proposed a bill which will prohibit LEAs and public charter schools from displaying in public schools any flag other than the official United States flag and the official Tennessee state flag. Do you agree with this proposed legislation?
100%.
Yes.
Yes. Wholeheartedly, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Now just be different. Ms. Beaton, we're going to start with you and go to the left, your right, and then we'll come back to Ms. Jordan and go to the left. We'll see if you can follow instructions. Okay. Will you accept, or have you accepted, campaign contributions from builders, developers, or any other group that stands to make financial gain from the construction of new schools? Yes or no?
No.
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 Absolutely no.
Yes, I have a donation from Southern Land.
Okay. Provide a one-word answer that defines your campaign. So this time, we'll start with Ms. Jordan and go to your left. Yeah, that's fine. And then we'll come back to Ms. Beaton and go to the right.
Hey, her left.
Her left,
Oh, and then.
and then to you and to your right.
Conservative.
Ms. Reeves.
Common sense.
I'm gonna say public servant.
Okay.
I know we're not following rules, but.
Oh, we'll just hyphenate everything. Okay. There we go. Ms. Beaton.
Compassionate.
Motivated.
Courage.
Okay, great. Now, you each get to make a closing statement. Okay? And you have 2 minutes to do that. So, here we go. Mr. Boston, closing statement, 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, thank you all for coming out. Hopefully this was informative to you. I learned a lot about everyone. I'm excited to hopefully serve alongside several of these people. So I appreciate you all coming out for this. Like I said in my opening, I think it's a mistake to assume that Williamson County is immune from the troubles of our day. We've talked about some of the issues, obviously, that are bubbling underneath the surface and probably will be coming more out in the open before too long. And I think it takes people of courage, that's why I use that, to stand and create policies and take stances on things that are for the best interests of our children with the conservative values that we have here in Williamson County. I don't take that lightly, and I'm not afraid to stand alone. I'd like people to stand with me, but I'm not afraid to stand alone. I've done that several times in my life, and if it's the good thing, it's the right thing, it's the moral thing, it's the God thing, that's what I'm going to stand for. And you can always count on that. I'll just, what is it they say in Congress? I will yield the remainder of my time to someone else.
No. You can quit talking, but you can't. The moderator puts his foot down on that. That's my one line lightning round answer.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Drigger.
Again, thank you for showing up. There are other things you've been doing tonight, but you came here. Thank you. There's some contact information for me outside on the table. And when we finish, if anybody, I'd like to see the veterans for fun, and anybody in District 3, if you have any questions for me. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Beaton.
As a Williamson County school parent since 1999, we've seen a lot of changes in our schools, some good and some not so good. Great. We have students that are not meeting standards. We have parents that are pulling their kids out of schools, whether to homeschool them or to send them to a private school. And some of that might be due to some of the age inappropriate materials in our classrooms and our libraries. Our teachers are not making a competitive wage, and we are losing some great teachers to other districts and to private schools and homeschool co-ops. As a taxpayer, knowing that over 68% of our county budget goes towards the public schools, and these are the things that we're coming across, it's unacceptable. We've gotta do better. It's time to bring back common sense, to bring back transparency, to become the #1 choice for parents, because as we all know, vouchers are on the horizons. And I am very concerned about that for the public schools. Anyway, I hope I earned your vote. I can talk to you afterwards if you'd like. And don't forget, go Go vote.
Thank you. Ms. Jordan.
All right, so I'm bringing what I like to call a true conservative perspective and real classroom experience and to the school board as your D9 candidate. As a Williamson County parent, we have 3 children that went all the way through, from elementary through high school in the Williamson County school system. I've been a Williamson County resident for 42 years. We live in Willow Springs. And because of my love of God and the love of the children, I will stand firm on true conservative values and policies that will put our children first. I've had 3 concerns in areas that I think would be of improvement. We've talked about them, interestingly enough, tonight, about the need for age-appropriate materials, books in the classroom. We know that we need developmentally challenging and comprehensive curriculum. We know that the data is not showing that the children are meeting the grade levels that they need to, such as 28% of the 3rd graders are now failing to achieve grade level. You've got high schoolers, only 24% of high schoolers are achieving grade level in math, and then only 58% of middle school students have achieved grade level in reading. This should not be so. In what we have always heard, that we're number 1, well, Williamson County District is rated number 3 in the state of Tennessee. I want students to provide a safe, positive learning environment where they can thrive without interference. And we haven't talked a lot about it, but for security reasons, we have talked about security measures in the building. But we also need to be aware of the 5G towers that are being talked about near the schools. That's something that's a concern because there's possible unknown effects on our children. And I want the Williamson County School Board to be financially good stewards of the taxpayers' money. Lastly, I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate your vote and support for Darlene. Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all can talk to me later, and then we'll get to the candidates, but Ms. Reeves.
Thank you for coming tonight and listening to us speak. I hope that you've learned a little bit about me and what I stand for. I'm clearly passionate about education. I hope that I've demonstrated that I'm a clear communicator. I'm absolutely data-driven, and I'm willing to ask tough questions. I'll listen and be responsive to people in the community, not just parents, but also taxpayers. And I truly care about and will represent the interests of parents, students, and teachers if I'm elected to the school board to represent District 9. So I hope to have your vote on March 5th if you live in District 9, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak tonight and for your continued support. A vote for me is a vote for a conservative educator with strong traditional values. My love for this community, along with my educational experience and my time that I've volunteered, show that I'm motivated to serve this community and its students, and that I would be a valuable asset on the school board. And I also believe that the best interests of students can be served when there's open collaboration between collaboration and support with the parents, the teachers, and the school board members. And I'm committed to supporting our teachers, refining our curriculum, upholding parental rights, and enhancing safety and accountability. And in order to do that, I ask for your support, and if you're in District 11, for your vote. And thank you again for coming out tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Ready for the call. Some of y'all are going to have a tough time deciding what district you want to move into before the March 5th election. I want to thank you as a person who's been a candidate for y'all coming out. I really do. I appreciate you coming out. And thank you for being willing to run. It's the man in the arena, as Teddy Roosevelt wrote, who deserves our applause. And whenever it's over, whatever it's over, I still thank you.
What are the dates of this reminder?
Yeah, so Valentine's Day through the 27th, and then on March 5th. And the last day to register to vote is February 5th. So go get those seniors that are in high school out to vote.
But the early voting is not on Monday, President's Day. Otherwise, it's the 14th to the 27th.
Okay, yes, I want to add my thanks to the candidates and to David Fowler. Amazing job tonight. Everybody give them a hand again. I want to thank all of you for coming. This was, it just really meant a lot to them, to us, and so it was great to see the turnout and your enthusiasm and participation. And so a few reminders. The early voting does start February 14th, Valentine's Day. And then election day, primary, for the primary is March 5th. But there is also another election. We have the general on August 1st, so don't forget that. So there are two times to vote. And then one other thing I wanted to remind you of is, well, first of all, I almost forgot, we have another forum. It's gonna be this Thursday night, 2 nights from tonight, for the sheriff candidates, and that's gonna be at the admin building, the Williamson County Administrative Complex, 6:30 to 8:30, same time. So we have the 3 sheriff candidates who will be participating. So I hope you will come back out and hear from them as well. And then we have, I'm sure all of us agree that election integrity is very important. And so because of that, we hope you would like to be involved in supporting election integrity. And one way to do that is to get trained as a poll watcher. So we have poll watcher training coming up on next Tuesday, February 6th. I believe it's at the Williamson County, is it the library? Yes, from 5:30 to 7, I believe. And it's the last poll watcher training before early voting. So I would encourage as many of you as possible to sign up for that, because we not only need people to be trained as poll watchers, but we need trained poll watchers to show up at the polls and help us, and to be, another set of eyes at the polling locations. So please sign up or email, or I'll give the information out. We've got flyers that I think we had them at the check-in, but anyway, Moonheat Bischoff can answer your questions about that. But is there anything else I missed, Tracy?
Just that when this is over, if you'll all stand up there and we'll get some good photos of
yes.
all the candidates. So we can post
Absolutely.
those and everybody can see your names. And thank you all
Okay.
for
Thanks,
a wonderful
everyone.
evening.
Yes, thank you.